and welcome back to the Tech Infi Wire channel. Today, we're going to be diving deep into something that can, well, really level up your photography and videography game.
Yeah.
Sony picture profiles.
Oh yeah, it's like a secret menu, you know?
A secret menu.
Of just visual styles built into your camera.
I like that, a secret menu.
Yeah.
So, for those of us who haven't discovered the secret menu yet, what exactly are picture profiles, and why should we care about them?
Well, think of them as a set of tools that allow you to really adjust how your camera captures an image before you hit record. So you're not just talking about like basic brightness or color balance here. You can fine-tune things like contrast, sharpness, and even how your camera handles different colors.
So it's more than just getting like a technically perfect shot.
Exactly.
It's about getting a specific look, a feel that you want.
100%,
for your creative vision.
Imagine being able to just like emulate the look of classic film stock.
Oh, wow.
Or create like really dramatic shadows and highlights. Or even set things up perfectly for editing later on. Picture profiles give you that level of control.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So this sounds like something that photographers and videographers could use.
100%.
We actually found this really great article on learnxiz.in. It's titled Sony Picture Profiles and Getting That Fuji Color.
That's a good one.
And that's what kind of got us really excited about this deep dive today.
I think the idea of taking, you know, a modern digital camera and giving it like the soul of those classic Fujifilm looks is super fascinating.
Totally. So before we get lost in the world of Fuji, let's just break down like some of the key concepts of picture profiles in general. What are the main things that we're tweaking here?
So one of the most important is black level. And that controls the brightness of the darkest parts of your image. So adjusting this can give you those deep, moody shadows for like a dramatic feel. Or you can brighten things up for like a softer, airier look. It's kind of like setting the overall mood of a scene right from the start.
I like that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then there's gamma.
Oh.
I've heard that term thrown around a lot with photography.
It's a big one.
But it's always sounded kind of mysterious to me.
Gamma can seem complicated. But think of it as the curve of your image's brightness. So it affects how smoothly your shadows transition to highlights. Some gamma curves are great for standard shooting, while others, like the cine curves, try to mimic that classic film look.
Yeah. So I've also heard of S-log profiles. Are those related to gamma?
They are. So S-log is a special type of gamma curve that's designed to capture the maximum amount of information possible, especially in the highlights and shadows. This is really great if you plan to do a lot of color grading in post-production, because it just gives you more flexibility to adjust things later without losing detail.
So for someone shooting like a really high contrast scene, like a sunset with bright skies and dark foregrounds, S-log would help them capture all that detail.
Exactly. Think of it as capturing a sort of raw image that you can then shape and refine in post.
I see.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a really powerful tool.
Definitely is.
But maybe a little overwhelming for someone who's just starting out with picture profiles.
For sure.
Are there other settings that we can tweak?
Oh, absolutely.
That are a bit more approachable? There's black gamma, which lets you fine-tune the contrast, specifically in the shadows. Then there's knee, which controls how your camera handles those really bright highlights. It can help prevent them from losing detail and becoming like pure white blobs.
Oh, So if you were shooting a portrait with the sun behind your subject, the knee setting would help keep some of that detail.
Exactly. In those bright areas.
Gotcha.
And then we get into color adjustments, which are where things get really fun.
All right.
You have color mode, which essentially lets you choose like a starting point for your colors. So there's the standard mode for everyday shooting, sign modes for more cinematic palettes, and even special modes that work with S-log to capture a super wide range of colors.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if you're going for like a specific film look,
or, you know, you'll be doing a lot of color work later on.
Right.
You'd want to choose a color mode that would kind of set you up for success.
You got it.
Okay.
And of course, there's saturation, which lets you control the intensity of colors. And then you've got all sorts of other parameters for fine-tuning things like detail, sharpening, and even adding like subtle color filters.
It's like you can really fine-tune the entire look
100%.
of your images right from the camera.
Yeah, it's super powerful.
So before we get too carried away with all these options, what is like a common mistake?
I think the biggest one is going overboard.
Okay.
It's tempting to crank up the saturation, sharpness, and contrast to make things really pop.
Right.
But that often leads to an unnatural, over-processed look.
Okay.
Yeah.
So start subtly.
Yes.
And just see how each setting impacts the image.
Exactly.
Before you just go crazy.
Yeah.
With adjustments.
100%. Take your time, experiment, and, don't be afraid to refer to your camera's manual to really understand what each setting does.
Yeah.
The more you learn, the more creative you can be.
That's great advice.
Thank you.
Speaking of creativity,
yeah,
let's circle back to that article on learnxiz.in.
Okay, yeah.
That talks about mimicking those popular Fujifilm looks. With our Sony cameras.
Yeah.
What's so appealing about it?
Well, Fujifilm has a long history in film photography.
Right.
And their film stocks are really known for a certain look and feel, a kind of magic that digital sometimes struggles to replicate.
Right.
Yeah, they're often praised for their unique colors, subtle grain, and that slightly imperfect quality that gives film its character.
I've definitely seen those Fuji photos.
Yeah.
And there's just something about them.
Yeah.
Like a softness and a warmth that's really appealing.
100%.
Are certain Fujifilm types better for specific types of photography?
Some are fantastic for portraits.
Okay.
Others excel at landscapes. And some, like Acros, are known for their beautiful black and white rendering.
Oh, yeah?
Their article we're looking at focuses on 3 popular Fujifilm simulations.
Okay.
Eterna, Acros, and classic negative.
Okay, so let's start with Eterna.
All right.
What kind of visual vibe?
So Eterna is all about creating that soft cinematic look. It's known for its muted colors, gentle contrast, and a sort of dreamy, ethereal quality. Think romantic films and those beautifully graded shots you see in like high-end productions.
That's a look I would love to try.
Yeah.
So how do we achieve that Eterna magic?
So the article provides a step-by-step guide to tweaking Sony picture profiles to mimic the Eterna look.
Right. I'm ready to take some notes here.
Okay, so for gamma, they recommend using Cine 4, which gives you a similar soft contrast to Eterna. Then you slightly increase the black level to soften those shadows even further, creating that gentle, low-contrast look. Yeah.
So we're really aiming for that delicate film-like aesthetic.
Exactly. Then you tweak the black gamma to widen the range and further soften the shadows. Emphasizing that signature Eterna flatness.
It's all about dialing in that soft, airy feel.
Yeah.
What about those delicate highlights?
To manage those, the article suggests playing with the knee settings. This helps prevent the highlights from becoming too bright and losing detail while maintaining that overall Eterna softness.
So we're finding like the sweet spot.
Exactly.
Where the highlights are controlled, but not overly harsh or blown out.
Exactly.
Okay, and then what about color adjustments?
So for color mode, they recommend using the Pro setting, which gives you a nice neutral palette to work with. Think of it as a blank canvas, where you can then add subtle color touches to match the Eterna look.
Okay, so we're not going for like desaturated colors. We're going for...
It's specific hues that capture that Eterna feel. And to start, the article suggests lowering the overall saturation to Mergus 8. This gives you that muted filmic look without going too extreme. Then to fine-tune those individual colors, they recommend tweaking the color depth settings. It's about making subtle adjustments to each color channel until you nail that Eterna palette.
Wow. I'm really starting to see how much control you have.
A lot.
That.
So you really do.
It's like being a painter mixing colors on a palette.
Exactly.
What about sharpness?
So to soften the image and give it a more filmic, organic feel,
Okay.
The article recommends setting the detail level to -7. Okay.
So you're essentially dialing back that super sharp digital look and going for something a bit more subtle and gentle.
So we're kind of de-emphasizing that harsh digital edge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And giving those photos.
And giving it that soft,
almost dreamy
Eterna feel.
Eterna feel.
Okay.
And by combining all these adjustments, you can create a picture profile that does a remarkable job of mimicking Fujifilm's Eterna simulation.
This is incredible. It feels like we're unlocking this whole other set of creative tools just by learning about these settings.
Yeah.
And this is just one Fujifilm look.
Exactly.
We haven't even touched on.
We got 2 more to go.
Acros and classic negative yet.
Yep.
But before we get to those,
I
want to remind our listeners to check out the full article that we're referencing today on learnxyz.in.
Of course.
You can find it at https://learnxyz.in/texture-profiles.
It's a great one. They've got some great examples and tips for really mastering these looks.
Definitely worth a visit if you're interested in exploring picture profiles and unlocking the creative potential of your Sony camera.
So we'll be back in a flash to delve into those other Fujifilm looks.
All right.
So stay tuned.
Sounds good. All right, so welcome back.
All right, let's tackle Acros next.
Okay.
Now, this one is a black and white film, right?
That's right. And it's not just any black and white.
Okay.
Acros is known for its rich tones, deep blacks, and like a really delicate grain structure.
So we're not just talking about like desaturating a color image.
Right.
There's a specific...
It's a very specific look to Acros black and white that photographers just love.
And thankfully, the learnxyz.in article breaks down how we can get that same look with our Sony picture profile.
Using those settings.
All right, I'm ready for more secret menu settings.
Okay, so the first step is pretty straightforward.
Okay.
You just switch the color mode to black and white.
Okay.
That kind of sets the foundation for everything else.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
We don't need to worry about color settings.
Right.
If we're going monochrome.
Exactly. Now, here's where it gets interesting.
Okay.
For gamma,
the
article actually recommends using S-Log 2.
Okay. Now, isn't S-Log all about capturing like a wide range of colors and detail?
Right.
Why would we use that for black and white?
That's the clever part.
Okay.
So even though we're ultimately removing the color information, S-Log 2's wide dynamic range gives us like incredible tonal depth in our black and white image.
Okay.
So we can then shape those tones to match the Acros aesthetic.
So we're using S-Log 2 almost as like a foundation.
Exactly.
To get the most out of our black and white conversion.
Think of it as starting with a really rich, detailed grayscale image.
That we can then fine-tune to get that specific Acros look.
Gotcha. Okay, what's next?
Next, we want to enhance those deep blacks that Acros is famous for.
Okay.
To do this, we bring the black level down to Medical 5.
Okay, so we're really pushing the contrast here to get those inky blacks and bright whites.
Exactly.
Okay.
And to further emphasize that contrast, we adjust the black gamma settings. The article suggests narrowing the black gamma range and setting the level to -2.
Okay.
This really adds depth to the shadows, giving them that characteristic Acros richness.
Okay. I can already picture those really dramatic black and white pictures.
Yeah.
With all this contrast, though, are we going to lose...
That's a great question.
Any information in those brighter areas?
That's a great question. So the article addresses that by recommending some subtle adjustments to the knee settings.
This helps preserve detail in those brighter areas while maintaining that overall contrast and punchy look we're going for.
So even in black and white, managing those highlights is still important.
Super important.
Okay.
Now, since we're already in black and white mode, you don't need to worry about saturation or color depth settings.
Right.
Those are irrelevant when we're dealing with purely grayscale images.
Okay, but what about sharpness?
Yes, so to mimic...
Because Acros is known for its fine detail.
It is. So to mimic that fine detail and crispness of Acros, we actually bump up the detail level to +2. This helps bring out that sharpness and definition that's characteristic of the film stock.
So even though we softened the image for Eterna... Here we're going in the opposite direction.
Exactly.
We're enhancing.
We're enhancing
the detail.
Okay. The article also mentions adjusting, something called VH balance.
Okay.
So Acros is known for its well-defined edges.
Right.
And a slight bump in the VH balance setting helps to enhance that effect even further.
It's amazing how we can fine-tune so many different aspects of the image.
You really can.
Even when we're working in black and white.
Yeah, it highlights the power of picture profiles.
Yeah.
And to put the finishing touch on our Acros emulation, we adjust the BW balance slightly towards white.
Okay.
This gives a subtle boost to the highlights, making them just a touch brighter.
So we're not aiming for like a flat grayscale image?
Nope.
It's like we're aiming for this.
Yeah, we're looking for nuance.
Nuanced black and white.
Exactly.
That captures.
It really captures
the essence of Acros.
The essence of Acros. And honestly, when you follow these steps, the results are quite remarkable.
Yeah.
Your photos can really take on that classic Acros feel.
I'm already imagining all the stunning black and white pictures I could take.
I know, right?
But
let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
We have one more.
We have one more Fujifilm simulation to explore.
We do.
Classic negative.
Classic negative.
So tell me about that one.
Classic negative. This one is all about capturing that timeless, almost nostalgic look of old color film photos.
There's something about those old photos, like a...
That's hard to describe.
Softness and richness.
Yeah.
That's just instantly recognizable.
You know it when you see it.
Yeah.
And classic negative nails that aesthetic.
Okay.
It's got this unique color palette with slightly muted tones.
Okay.
Rich contrast.
Okay.
And a special way of handling highlights and shadows.
Okay.
That just screams vintage film.
I'm already feeling nostalgic just thinking about it.
I know.
So let's break down the settings for classic negative.
All right, so to start, we set the gamma to Cine 4.
Okay.
This gives us a balanced dynamic range with slightly lifted shadows.
Okay.
And that soft, gentle contrast that classic negative is known for.
So we're not going for like super high contrast, but we're also not going for completely flat.
Right, we're finding that.
Right, we're finding that middle ground.
That middle ground.
That evokes film.
That evokes film.
Okay.
And to give the shadows a bit more depth, we bring the black level down just slightly to meta 3.
Just a nudge?
A little nudge.
To enhance the shadows?
Yeah, just to add to that classic film vibe.
Okay.
For black gamma. We use a middle range and lower the level a bit.
Okay.
This helps to create that characteristic contrast and smooth gradation in the shadows.
So the shadows are defined.
Yeah.
But they don't look harsh.
Not at all.
Or overly digital. They have that subtle softness that you would get with film.
You got it.
Okay.
And for the knee setting, we switch to manual mode.
Okay.
And set the point to 80% and the slope to +1.
Okay.
This helps preserve detail in the highlights.
Okay.
While still maintaining that overall film-like quality.
Again, we're really being careful with those bright areas to prevent them from getting blown out. But we're not making them look unnaturally perfect or digital.
Nope, we're embracing that imperfection.
That imperfection.
Yeah. Now for the color mode,
we
stick with the Pro setting, which gives us a nice neutral starting point for our colors.
So we're starting with a clean slate.
Exactly.
And then layering in those colors that evoke that old film feeling.
Exactly.
So what's our first step in that?
So to get that slightly faded vintage look, we start by bringing the overall saturation down to -4.
Okay.
This helps to tone down the vibrancy a bit and get us closer to that classic color palette.
So we're not going for those super saturated, hyper real.
We're going for something more muted.
Muted, subtle.
And subtle.
Okay.
And now comes the fun part.
Right.
Fine-tuning the color depth.
Okay.
This is where we really get to play with individual color channels.
This is where we get to really get creative.
Exactly.
Does the article give us any guidance?
Yeah.
Where to start with that?
They recommend reducing the reds and blues slightly, keeping the greens and cyans neutral.
Okay.
And then adding a touch of warmth to the yellows. It's all about finding that right balance to create that specific, classic negative color palette.
It's amazing how we can manipulate those individual colors.
You really can't.
to get the exact look we want.
It's powerful stuff.
And to further enhance that classic film texture.
Yep.
And soften the overall image. We set the detail level to native 2.
That's it.
This helps avoid that overly sharp digital look.
Exactly.
And gives our photos a more organic, filmic feel.
Yep.
So just like with Eterna, we're dialing back that harsh digital sharpness.
We are.
And we're kind of embracing a softer, more film-like aesthetic.
100%.
Okay.
To maintain a balanced sharpness
across
both vertical and horizontal edges.
Okay.
We keep the VH balance at 0.
Okay.
We do the same with the BW balance setting to prevent any unwanted color casts and keep the image true to that classic negative style.
So we're really paying attention to every detail.
Every detail.
To make sure it all comes together.
To make sure it all works together to create that overall vintage film aesthetic.
Vintage film aesthetic.
Exactly.
Okay, what about highlight detail?
To achieve that, we make a subtle reduction to the highlight detail setting. Okay. This helps to control those bright areas and give them that characteristic softness that's so evocative of film.
It's all about the little nuances.
The nuances.
That really come together to create the final look.
Exactly. And by carefully adjusting all of these settings, you can create a Sony picture profile that faithfully recreates the magic of Fujifilm's classic negative simulation.
This is mind-blowing.
It's pretty amazing.
It's like we've unlocked this whole new dimension of creativity with our Sony cameras just by learning about these picture profiles.
Right.
I'm already itching to go out and shoot.
I know, me too.
Try out all these different looks. Before we do that, though, I want to remind everybody to check out the full article on learnxxyz.in.
Yep.
You can find it at https://learnxxyz.in/Sony Picture Profiles.
That's the one.
They have some great examples and tips
for
really mastering these Fujifilm emulations.
Yeah, it's a fantastic resource for anyone who wants to explore picture profies and take their photography to the next level.
So we'll be back in a moment to wrap things up.
Sounds good.
But first, we just want to encourage you to experiment, have fun, and see what kind of creative magic you can unlock with your Sony camera.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
It's funny, you know, we're spending all this time talking about recreating the look of film with our, fancy digital cameras. You'd think.
You would think.
In this age of technology, we'd all be about the latest and greatest, digital effects and stuff. But clearly there's something special about those classic film aesthetics.
There is.
That keeps drawing us back.
It's a fascinating paradox, isn't it?
It is.
We have all this incredible digital technology at our fingertips.
Right.
Yet there's still this undeniable appeal to the way that film captures light, color, and texture.
I think it speaks to that enduring quality of film.
Yeah.
It has a certain warmth, a character, a subtle imperfection that can be hard to replicate. Digitally.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think those imperfections are what make a photo truly special.
Absolutely.
And it's not just about nostalgia either.
Right.
Film has these unique characteristics that influence.
It influences the whole image-making process.
Yeah.
It's not just what you capture, but how you capture it.
And that's where these picture profiles come in.
Right. It gives us that way to bridge the gap between digital and analog.
Right.
To use our modern cameras to tap into those classic film vibes.
Yeah.
And it's so much more than just slapping a filter on it in post.
With picture profiles, you're shaping the image.
You're shaping it at the source.
They're
influencing how the camera itself sees and interprets the scene.
It's about taking creative control.
Right.
From the moment you press the shutter button.
You're not just documenting reality, you're crafting a vision.
Wow.
You're making artistic choices that influence the final look of your images.
It's like we're digital photographers and filmmakers, but we're drawing inspiration from those classic analog techniques to create something new and unique.
I love that.
And think about all the possibilities.
Yeah.
We've only explored 3 specific Fujifilm simulations today.
Right, just a taste.
there are countless others.
Oh, so many.
Out there to experiment with.
Tons.
And you don't even have to limit yourself to just recreating film looks.
No, you can get crazy with it.
You can create your own unique picture profiles.
From scratch.
From scratch, wow.
Yeah.
So we can basically create our own like filters or presets that are perfectly tailored to
100%
our style and the type of photography we do.
It's like having a secret language, you know, that you can use to communicate with your camera.
Okay.
Telling it exactly how you want it to see the world.
Now, we've been talking about Sony cameras this whole time.
Right.
But are picture profiles like unique to Sony?
So most major camera brands have their own versions of picture profiles. They might go by different names. Like Canon has picture styles. Nikon has picture controls. Panasonic has Cine-like modes. But the idea is the same.
So no matter what camera system you use, you probably have some level of control over how your photos look.
Most likely,
Right from the camera itself.
Yep.
This whole deep dive has really been eye-opening for me.
It's fascinating stuff.
You know, it's easy to get caught up
in
the technical aspects of photography.
Right.
You know,
megapixels, lenses, all that.
Megapixels, lenses, all that stuff.
Right.
But sometimes we forget that.
Yeah.
At the heart of it all.
At the heart of it.
Is that desire.
To create.
To express ourselves visually.
Express ourselves visually.
Yeah.
And picture profiles give us the tools to do that.
They do.
They're not about getting the technically perfect shot. They're
about translating your unique vision into tangible images.
It's about experimenting.
Yeah.
Having fun.
Having fun.
And just discovering what looks and feels right.
To you.
To you.
Don't be afraid to break the rules.
Yeah.
Play with the settings and see what happens.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of digital photography. You can experiment freely. Without worrying about wasting film.
So go out there. Play with your camera's picture profiles.
And unlock that creative potential within you.
Well said. I think that's a great note to end on.
This deep dive into Sony picture profiles has been a blast.
It has.
And I'm feeling super inspired to go out and put all this new knowledge into practice.
Me too.
But before we wrap up, I want to remind everyone to check out that amazing article on learnxyz.in.
That's a good one.
You can find it at https://learnxyz.in picture profiles.
Bookmark that one.
They have tons of helpful tips and examples.
That'll help you really master these techniques.
And a huge thank you to you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Our expert, for sharing your insights with us today.
My pleasure. Always happy to talk shop about photography.
And to all of you listening. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Sony picture profiles. We hope you found it informative, inspiring, and maybe even a little bit mind-blowing.
It's a lot to take in.
Be sure to check out www.learnxyz.in for more photography resources and tutorials.
Yeah, great site.
And if you enjoyed this episode, please give us a like and subscribe to the Tech and Fi-Wire channel.
Please do.
For more deep dives into the world of photography, videography, and all things tech.
We'll see you next time.
Happy shooting, everyone.